Hi, guys. I'd like to welcome you guys back to Read with Melanin. I know it's been a very long time, but I can honestly explain. So I think I wrote this on the community page, but I actually broke my camera and I've been trying to decide which camera is the best option for me. So if you have any camera ideas, that would be freaking fantastic. Please leave them down below in the comments. I'm trying to debate because I would like a vlog camera, but a vlog camera that I can also use to record videos because I'm starting to do studio vlogs over on my Plan with Melanin channel. We're actually legit recording that like on the side with my phone. So it's a whole situation. But I've got my reading planner from last year and we've got a couple books that we need to go over because according to my look, I have not told you guys what I'm basically telling you guys what I read from August through December of 2022. There are a couple of good books here, so I figured we're just gonna get started with Naked. So yeah, I'll show you guys what I read for Naked. So in August, it was Naked Readathon. So it was an entire month of reading romance. And I'm not going to lie, I kind of started getting burnt out by week 2 of romance because I kind of feel like it's the same kind of thing over and over again, which I'm sure for people who read romance, they probably look at fantasy and think the same thing. So I don't really see that I don't see that as a bad thing per se. It's more like one of those things where I'm like, okay, my max might be like 2 weeks. So, yeah. Also, sorry, I had to move my mic. So, the first book that I read for Naked was No Longer Afraid by Christina C. Jones. It's of a book one of one of her motorcycle gang series. I thought it was really good. Oshley thought that I would like it. I liked it a lot. It ties back into the Roses and Thorns, which y'all know I'm very much obsessed with. Like, would really like for Christina to just give me like a whole Roses and Thorns like anthology at this point. So I was really like crazy good. That book actually ended on a major cliffhanger. So obviously I jumped right in and was gonna read the second book, but I got distracted because work at that time was a mess. So I jumped right into Make a Scene by Mimi Grace. Make a Scene by Mimi Grace was focused on a young woman who owned her own bakery who ended up having to go to the wedding of her ex-fiance and her cousin. And so she kind of like hires her we're gonna call her a business friend. Like he owned the gym that was in her area where she ran her bakery, and he was her date. And I thought that that would be such a cute movie. Y'all know those kind of movies would like touch my soul. That is major chick flick energy, and I just really loved it. Plus, the way that Mimi Grace chooses to describe her characters makes all of her characters sound like really beautiful chocolate people, and I just really like that. So another book that I read was Along for the Ride by Mimi Grace. So I read Make a Scene for Naked, but because I actually like the way that Mimi Grace writes, I wanted to there was another book that was on my radar by her. And the only reason that this one doesn't count as Naked is because it was an interracial relationship. He was Pacific Islander, I think. He also sounded real fine. But this story is, I think it's Enemies to Lovers, where it's starring a girl whose sister and brother-in-law were moving across the country. So she volunteered to drive one of their moving trucks to that side of the world because they had to wrap up some things, and his her brother-in-law's best friend ended up being the person to ride with her. But of course things happen along the way. They end up bonding a little bit, and then as time progresses, you know, it's a romance, so y'all know how this goes. I thought it was super cute. Again, I feel like this is another book that I would totally watch because I have chick flick moments where all I want to watch is like cutesy love type stuff. So it would work for me. Another author that I checked out for Naked is J. Nicole. So I read Influenced by Love. This one was also another cute one. So it's about a girl who owns a flower shop. She ends up meeting this big time, well, in his area, big time city DJ who's got like tons of followers and stuff like that. Like he's a true blue influencer. And I think this is the first story that I've read where one of the main characters is an influencer, which I feel is very fitting considering the world that we're living in. Like there are a lot more people that are actual influencers and content creators. So it was nice to kind of like add that into the romance world. Again, this is another one that I think would be like a super cute chick flick. Actually, like a lot of the Black author romance books that I've been reading would make really either cute series where, like every season focuses on like a different couple. Cause some of the like Christina C. Jones, Love Belvin and them, they make like areas of like a neighborhoods where like everybody's connected somehow. I would love to see this like on TV, like Peacock or whatever. Like somebody needs to like start this because the way that I would be so invested in everybody's characters and how excited I would get to see like characters from season 1 come into season 2, kind of how like what they did with Bridgerton, but like better. That would be great. I liked Influenced by Love as well. Did I give it a ranking? Oh, this was my like TBR page for this. Another book that I read during Naked was The Rose That Got Away by Christina C. Jones. It was basically like a novella about a rose who escaped and she ends up meeting with a thorn, and they end up meeting Alicia, which if you've read any of the Roses and Thorns or even the Motorcycle Gang books, then you know who Alicia is. If you haven't, I just highly recommend that you do because again, I'm obsessed. Like I want to read everything that involves like roses and thorns. So Christina's going to continue to get my money if she keeps writing these. Yeah. Like I've become a romance reader like when I'm in the mood. And I only blame my book club for this because y'all know my main genre in love is fantasy. And then if I have to dip out of fantasy, it's normally sci-fi. And then every once in a while I jump into contemporary. So it's been a very interesting transition for me, like no big deal. So in August, I definitely DNF'd. Like this book kind of took me out of the whole vibe, and it was Demon Time by M.L. Sexton. I was not a fan of this book for multiple reasons. I kind of found the writing to be like massive eye rolling. Like when you're like reading and you read something that's just ridiculous, so you just roll your eyes. That's kind of where I was. But the part that really kind of aggravated me was the fact that there is sexual assault in this book, and it's written in a way that is just like so nonchalant and gross. And I don't know how to explain it, but I know when I read it, I was so uncomfortable. Like I didn't even want to read the rest of the book. It's about a fallen angel who meets a fairy, and this fairy has like healing powers, but it's through her juices. And so, yeah, it wasn't, it's like, I want to like fantasy romance is something that I want to look into, but that was not it for me. That was a DNF, and I don't feel like I need to talk about it anymore. So the next set of books, like I don't have an order for them because around this time, the depression of my life really set in and I wasn't using any of my planners really. So I don't have like the tabs start after September. So I didn't even use my own reading planner, which is crazy. But, life happens. So the next book that I read was obviously Raised by Wolves by Christina C. Jones. This is the second book in the Motorcycle Gang series. I think that's the only ones. If there are more, I will be reading them. But I liked it. Again, I just want more roses and thorns. I think I'm going to keep saying this over and over. I know I read this in December because November and December were high travel times for me. So at my old job, I had to start going back to like conferences and stuff. And my old job was super cheap, so I wasn't ever allowed to fly. So I had to do a lot of driving. I went back and forth north to New Orleans about 5 times between November and the first 2 weeks of December. So I was doing a lot of driving. So I wanted to listen to like cute books. And I remember when I went with my friend Kara, when my parents were moving from New Orleans, I went to go pick up some plants. And so on the entire ride there, we listened to Blackout, which was the first version of this book. And then this one is Whiteout. And I think, one, I wish that they would have kept the other covers because I don't necessarily love this cover at all. The main characters that they're focusing on, like, this looks nothing like them. I don't like it. I think them kind of keeping it racially ambiguous opens up more crowds, but like, I want it to be known that this is about Black people. Obviously, I thought all of the stories were cute. Stevie and Sola, normally it's one of the like other stories connected to the main story that like holds my heart, but this one was definitely the main one. Stevie and Sola, ugh, their little love story was so cute. So it's basically about a whiteout. Like, that one time there was a massive snowstorm in Georgia, and it's about a girl named, or a person named Stevie. They're trying to find themselves out. A person named Stevie messes up really bad and feels like they need to do something extravagant for their girlfriend Sola, or Sola is done with them. So it's the story of Stevie and Sola, but like they're friends as well. So cute. I was like, oh, this makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. So that was a good audiobook to listen to while I was driving. Another audiobook that I re-listened to in honor of the book coming out was Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. Y'all know how I feel about Legendborn. I felt like it was one of those books that like really catered to my soul. I do understand the criticisms, like I said before, about this book. So I was hoping that some of those criticisms would be addressed in Blood Marks. So obviously we picked up, I don't know where my cover is for this. We picked up Blood Mark as well. And now that I've had time to fully think about it, one, I feel like Tracy Deonn did a really good job with the second book in a trilogy, because you guys know sometimes with the trilogy, the second book kind of falls flat. This book actually kept me on edge. Like, I felt very anxious while I read this book. I like the fact that there is more root work in this book. There are more Black people in this book. Yes, there's racism and things like that, like it was in the first book. But I feel like with this book, I felt more of a connection for Bree and like her powers and her ancestry. I felt them a lot better in the second book versus the first book. I hate the fact that white book talk and like a lot of white readers have diminished this Legendborn series to be a love triangle where the main focus is on Nick and Cell rather than Bree. And it really aggravates me, especially when I see like book talkers talking about the fact that they love this love triangle, and it completely diminishes the book, in my opinion, because the stuff that Bree goes through is just good for me. Like, I like the fact that she's not a strong Black woman. If you read the book, you understand what I mean. Like, she is a freaking teenager that got on my freaking nerves. But honestly, it was refreshing. She's flawed. She can't do nothing. Honestly, she gets on my nerves. But I really appreciated that about this book. I really look forward to reading the third book. I still don't know how I feel about the ending of this book at all. But I feel like on my second, when I reread it for a second time, like after it's like really truly set in, I feel like I'll be able to have more thoughts about it, because honestly, I'm still confused. Like, I understand how we got there, but I'm still like, I just don't know where we're going for book 3, basically. So if you read it, you know what I'm talking about. I can't say what I want to say because that's massive spoilers. But when I tell you there are certain parts of this book that made me close the book and put it down for a while because I was so aggravated, but not aggravated in like, oh my God, this book sucks. Aggravated in like, oh my God, if Tracy is about to do what I think she's about to do to one of my favorite characters, I don't know if I want to continue this series. So I like having those kind of emotions when it comes to reading books. I'm that kind of person that like freaks out about books and freaks out about like reading them and having emotions towards characters. I think if you're able to make me love characters, especially side characters, you've done a really good job for me. So I'm going to continue this series and we'll see. The next book that I read is CeCe Rios and the King of Fears by Kayla Rivera. It is the second book. I forgot the name of the series, but if you want to know, it's CeCe Rios and the Desert of Souls. And then the second book is King of Fears. I really like this series. Like I told y'all, I felt like middle grade was really giving me the variety that I wanted for fantasy. Um, would I have liked to see this kind of story as adult high fantasy? Absolutely. I think that an adult take on this book would have been so dope. But also, I want more books like this. This is a story about a young girl named CeCe. She's having to face the demon realm, and she's having to face who they call the King of Fears. This is a very serious story about family, about brujas, in this particular folklore. I just really enjoyed it. It was another book that I read that I felt very content. I started listening to the audiobook at work, and then I ended up listening to the audiobook all day. Like I was folding clothes. I finished the audiobook in a day because it was so good to me. Like I didn't want to finish. I didn't want it to end, but I also wanted to know what happened. So I enjoyed it. So if you're looking for a good middle grade fantasy, I think this is a good one that you can read. I mean, by yourself or with your kids or whatever. I like this one a lot. Speaking of middle grade, I finished the Rina Baron's series with Maya, and it is Maya and the Lord of Shadows by Rina Baron. I The conclusion of this story closed off very well, but I was a little disappointed. I'm not gonna lie here. I wasn't completely like the series was okay. Like the second book didn't really do much like hype me up for the third book, but I like the series again as a whole. It's another one of those middle grade series where it's young kids on adventures, and it's not just young white kids. Like this is a young black girl on a series. The other one was a young Latina. Like I like these series for kids and I want them to keep being made. This one kind of fell a little flat for me, but also it fell flat for me only because like I wanted more, but I knew that the stuff that I particularly wanted was technically adult fantasy topics. And for that, they didn't need to be like 11-year-old kids to get that kind of stuff because I wanted more drama with the adults of the story. I wanted way more drama with them, but obviously this is focused on the kids. So I had to check myself in my thought process while I was reading. But I felt like it closed the whole series really well. So if you are interested in Maya and what is the books? These are the 3 books. I suggest you check them out. So I read my first Karen Strong book, and that is Eden's Everdark. And basically, if you've never heard of Eden's Everdark, it is about a young girl who ends up going into this different realm called the Everdark, which I've never heard of such a story involving like the Everdark. I'm trying to think if I've ever read a book where it has, where it has another realm like this, but basically it is basically the realm of the is it the realm of the dead, but like the first stage of the realm of the dead. I think that honestly, I don't know how to explain it, which is super annoying. But she ends up trapped over in this world and she's trying to get back to her world because if she stays there too long, she'll die and never be able to get back home. And this is after her and her father had gone to visit her mother's people, her mother's family land, ancestral land, and everything. And so she ends up going to this other realm on accident and tries to get back home to her father. And again, I love the whole like ancestral powers kind of vibes. I love anything where it's like a young daughter connecting to her mother. Again, I enjoyed Eden's Everdark a lot. It actually makes me want to check out some of Karen Strong's other books, which I do plan on doing this year. Obviously, I read Amari and the Great Game. Amari and the Great Game gave me so much. I was so aggravated because, again, one, I'm remembering that this is middle grade. So the fact that I find Amari frustrating for her childish behavior is pretty spot on for me, if I believe so. So this book, how do I put this? Basically, the magicians are a group of magical people that are illegal because of how much power they possess. And so, based on the events that happened in the first book, Amari is revealed to be a magician. And so she actually is a part of a prophecy that has very large ramifications, not only on the magical world, but on the entire world as a whole. And that's all I can tell you without spoiling it, because this is book 2 of a trilogy. Um, I felt on edge. There were parts of this book where I was trying to guess what could happen, because obviously this is the second book in the series. So I'm like, no, there's no way that this is going to happen because X, Y, and Z. I did enjoy some of the plot twists. I found some parts of the plot twists that were like super obvious, but I'm ready for the third book. So BB Austin, go ahead and hurry up and write it. Please don't make me wait 2 years. I mean, I'm obviously going to reread the entire series before the third book comes out, but I was very happy with this one. Also, do not change the cover for the third book. All of them better have this. I want my series to be cohesive. Thank you, publishing. Let me tell you about another author that I found via audiobook on my drives, and that is Mia P. Manansala. I think that's how you say her name. So she has this cute mystery series, like Rosie is called. I think it's like the Rosie's Kitchen series. I don't know, but it's focused on a girl named Layla who comes back to her hometown after she finds her fiance has cheated on her. She comes back to try to live with her tia, and it turns out that her aunt's her aunt's shop restaurant, there we go. Her aunt's restaurant is failing. So she come back to save her aunt's restaurant. And she ends up being tied into these murders. And each murder is like a different book. So the first book of the series is Arsenic and Adobo. Loved it. Basically, her tita Rosie is being accused of murdering the town's food critic who died after eating her food. And it's up to Layla to try to figure out who actually did it. Loved it. So that meant while I'm on the drive home, I listened to Homicide and Hallo Hallo. Same type of principle. Again, I loved it. I was like, dang, I forgot how much I used to love mysteries, because when I was a kid, I read all of the Agatha Christie novels when I was a kid, and like I'm like, why have I not dived back into the mystery, the comfy cozy mysteries? This is such a comfy cozy mystery series. I've already actually read the third book in January, so I'll talk about that later. But if you have not checked out either one of these books, highly recommend it. I think, one, I love the characters. I'm pretty much obsessed with the Bruja Cafe and everybody involved. I'm obsessed with every character of this story, especially all of her ninans, her titas, and I love all of them. Plus, I love the fact that in the book, she shares Filipino recipes. She helps you with the Filipino pronunciations and like what they mean. So as she's using them in the stories, you already know what they mean. Also, if you listen to the audiobook, I love the accents. The accents really do something for me. I love all her tita's accents and her Lola. I love her Lola. Period. Check it out. I loved both of the books. So, remember how in the beginning of last year, or like midway through last year, it was either on this channel or Black Prose, where I was talking about how I really want more contemporary books by Black women, giving me the same kind of contemporary chick flick vibes that like the white books gave. And I think I got it in Honey and Spice by Balo Babalola. Loved it. So it's about this girl who has a podcast on college campus. And I swear the people with podcasts are like the best and worst in stories. But she ends up in this fake relationship with this guy, and If you've not read Honey and Spice, just the first couple of pages really sent me there. Like I had a full-blown open mouth cackle at the way that this book starts. This book starts immediately like, okay, this book's a vibe. Like I would recommend this book to other people, mainly because it gives me that contemporary book feel that I was looking for. It's also caused me to try to look into more, and I've been trying to find more bookstagrammers that read more adult fiction, like in that genre, so that I can pick up on more books. Because I don't always want, well, I don't mind reading books about racism and struggle. Like we as people live just like everybody else, and not everything has to be a story of racism. Like I want to read about relationships. I want to read about failures. I want to read about meet cutes and fake relationships and the drama of being a woman. Like if I could write, I would write a book about being I would literally write a book series based on me and my friends and like the things that we've gone through as young women, especially being single and now in our 30s. Like I would write a whole series. I'm just not a writer. So if somebody wants to write these books for me and still give me credit and like you can be my writer, like call me. I'll illustrate the cover. We could do this. Another book that I read last year was Will by Will Smith. It was one of the book picks for Black Prose Club last year. And unlike reading Mariah Carey's book, Will's book was eye-opening for me in a different way. The villain of the story of their relationship is not Jada. And it's funny because if everybody who blames Jada in their relationship and calling Will a simp and all that other stuff, if they read this book, I feel like they also wouldn't find Jada to be the enemy. Now, I don't agree with I don't like Jada for the manipulation and the taking advantage of August Alsina. That part will always be a no for me. But I view Jada and Will and their marriage in a completely different look now. And like Will Smith is borderline narcissist. Like, if you want to check out the book discussion, I'll try to remember to leave a link down below. But we had a whole talk about this where it was like, Will shows us what he wants us to see. And it was very curated. And obviously, this book was written pre-slap, but him slapping Chris Rock makes so much more sense after reading this book. So, I mean, I still see nothing wrong with what he did, but either way, like I was pretty like, whoa, it was one of those. Yeah, it was interesting. Another book that I read, oh, this is like 40 minutes long when I'm recording this. We'll see how I like mesh it down. Magnifique Noir, book 2, You Are Magical. I just want to put like a thing out there to Brianna Lawrence. I need book 3. Thank you very much. Also, we are losing lighting so fast right now. I don't know what happened. We just lost all the lighting in here. But yeah, this is the sequel to Magnifique Noir, book 1. I love this series. I want to illustrate these ones. Like, I want to be a part of the illustrations in her 3rd book. So I'm going to like send her a message and see. But I need book 3. We didn't hit some drama. I need the book 3. If you haven't checked these out, highly recommend it. You can get it off her Etsy. I don't know which one's better. If you buy it from her Etsy, you can also get it off Amazon, but I would check her Etsy first, buy it directly from her. She's got stickers and stuff too, so go support. We love a self-published author. So the last book on my list for the books that I read for 2022 between August and December is the graphic novel Naomi Season 1. We just talked about this on Black Prose the other day, but I'm very excited for the series. I have some preservations around it, but I'm hoping that we get a young girl learning about the fact that she has powers in a way that's not strong Black woman tropey. But again, if you want to hear the discussion that we had about the book after you read it, I will leave a link down below. If you aren't subscribed to Black Prose Club, you might as well, because that's where I talk about a lot of books as well. I would like to get back to doing book discussions and stuff on here, but it's just something that I'm working towards. So if you guys have particular kinds of videos that you would like to see from me on this channel, please leave a comment down below in the description box. Thank y'all so much for rocking with me. I'm back. We're gonna be doing this a little interesting. I'm recording on my laptop because my camera is broken and my webcam. So we're gonna see how well this works. Don't forget the subscribe button. And until the next time, guys. Bye.